Hello everybody, Cantonese Cat here. This is going to be my dark mode low-key video for the week. If you need something to meditate to, if you just want to hear my voice and go to sleep, I'm going to go through a bunch of altcoins here as fast as I can. Then I'm always going to first go through Ethereum. If I just take out this fancy indicator, what are you really seeing? This is a monthly chart of Ethereum. And it's just been since June of 2022 trying to find higher highs and higher lows and higher high and higher low. Right now it had a higher high, and it's just trying to put in a higher low. How low is the higher low going to be? Is this going to be it? Is it going to go a little bit further? Is it going to last a little bit longer? It's hard to say for sure. I have reasons to believe that I think this is it. I have reasons to believe that we've already corrected enough and that we might be going up from here. One of the reasons because whenever price got way above the Tenkan, the red line right around here. Even for further explanation, please feel free to listen to my other videos if you like. But whenever price get a little bit too far from the Tenkan here, generally it serves as a little bit of a magnet to kind of bring price back down a little bit before its bullish continuation. That's the case for really any assets. During a bear market, Tenkan can serve as a resistance, but whenever it flips into support, it can push price a lot higher. But when things get a little bit too far out away from the Tenkan, generally serves as a little bit of a magnet, kind of pull it back down to earth, kind of like here. I think we're very, very similar, equivalent to around this area over here, where things are just kind of getting a little bit overextended. We have the bullish cross at the Tenkan and Kijun right around February 2024, and that it can serve as a pretty decent momentum to kind of push the price a lot higher. The Kijun right now is at 2500. Tenkan is at 2800. Top of the Ichimoku clouds around 2885. Looks like price got pretty close back down to Tenkan, got supported by the top of the Ichimoku cloud. Although it does look a little bit more bearish engulfing, but don't let that fool you. That doesn't always have to necessarily work out. And even if it is truly bearish engulfing, so what? I think basically you can have another month, perhaps in May, to have a little bit of a downward candle over here, but I think June, July might continue to reverse that and bring that a lot higher. And even if we end up having a May candle, kind of closing a little bit below over here, kind of fill the wick, if you will, with a candlestick, then it might still be a very much of a higher low before bullish continuation. So these are some of the important levels to kind of pay attention to: 2500, 2800, and then 2885 are some of the more important levels here to kind of pay attention to. If you look at the Bollinger Band, it kind of tells you the story here too. Things got a little bit way too far extended away from the upper Bollinger Band, simply just kind of pulling back down here a little bit. So far, the month is inside the Bollinger Band. I would like to see the month actually kind of close inside the Bollinger Band to allow this to be a little bit more of a healthy correction here before some pretty crazy significant bullish continuation is going to happen. Again, I still think that this is a very, very similar spot as we are over here. You can see that right now you have something that's just way outside of the Bollinger Band, and it's just basically pulling, doing some necessary pullback, kind of get back inside the earth right around here. It does span another candle right next to that the month after that to be a little bit more sideways. But honestly, after that, you're having a very, very, very crazy kind of, bull cycle after that. I think the bull cycle has already started and we're building a little bit more momentum as we go on. But this is going to be like the initial up leg of the momentum, trying to push the Bollinger Band higher, kind of like what it did over here, right? But then the leg after that, which I suspect it would come because the 20-month moving average is very nicely crawled up. So I suspect that it's going to come, sooner rather than later. I'm not going to go into the weekly chart of this. I just want to show you like the monthly chart and just kind of give you an idea as to what I'm looking at. Even looking at the Black Cat fund flow chart, you can see there's still a significant amount of inflow coming in when this price just kind of gone sideways for about 2 or 3 months. Kind of like over here, you get significant inflow coming in with Black Cat indicator, but price kind of gone sideways, building up tons of energy for it to potentially go even higher. I think we're experiencing some very similar issues over here, where price just kind of goes sideways, and the Black Cat Fund info indicator just keeps on pushing up, so it tells you the whales are coming in. And we simply just really haven't had the big giant push up yet, where things can get really impulsive. So that's Ethereum. I'm going to talk about another one of our favorites over here. I'm going to go through the same indicators as we did before. You're looking at the Ichimoku cloud for our favorite friend Doge. and this is not going to be Doge market cap, it's going to be actual Doge. I think that we are at a very similar point for, this is going to be the third cycle for Dogecoin. I think we're at a very, very similar point where you're starting to have, the Tenkan Kitchen Cross that had already happened, actually. This is a little bit of dark mode, so it's a little bit harder for you to see. But the Tenkan Kitchen Cross had already happened in the month of March with this big giant green candle over here. Right now what we're doing is really just kind of having a little bit of back test here. This is a very, very clear Adam and Eve accumulation pattern, and we have a strong breakout in the month of March. Right now in the month of April, we just simply have a back test, wicked into it, and we're finding support here at the Tenkan and Kijun over here too, around 14 cents or so for both the Tenkan and Kijun, and the range over here is around 13 cents. So I think we really have a very, very constructive price action. Price just simply got way too far, way too fast, and we need a little bit of a correction. Got a bullish cross over here as tailwind. I think this eventually over the next few months is going to end up being pretty impulsive and try to push price above the Ichimoku cloud that you're seeing above here. Just like the time before that, you can see that we had a little bit of a back test down here after you break out of it. And next thing you know, it's just big bullish continuation. Do I think things are going to happen this fast, this crazy? No, because the market cap is a lot larger now. And also I think this might be a little bit of a delayed cycle over here because of COVID. Around March 2020, I think it did kind of take a toll. It would have been probably maybe a little bit shorter. But regardless, this price action over here is very similar to this price action over here. The Adam and Eve is very similar to the Adam and Eve over here. If you just kind of squint, you can also see kind of like a little bit of Adam and Eve over here too. Adam here, Eve over here. All right. So all three cycles have basically played out very, very similar. And the bullish cross is also played out very, very similar. In the area where it is underneath the Ichimoku cloud is also playing out very, very similar. So I actually think that, Doge is going to be a pretty good, this is like a little bit of a joke here. We're talking about all these Middle East crises here, and Doge like bounce off from this support over here. So I think that Doge is going to be a pretty good store of value, quote, being sarcastic here as we move forward. But I think it's looking pretty decent. Another related coin to Doge is going to be ShibaInu. And if you look at the Coinbase chart for ShibaInu, you can see that it also had a very, very bullish cross that happened last month here as well, around March of 2024. And also what it's doing is exactly what it was doing with the other coins here too. It simply had a range breakout, right? If you look over here, there's a little bit of a range over here. It also does have a little bit of accumulation pattern over here. And basically what it's doing is kind of got like a big volume breakout over here, caused a bullish cross, and had a back test. The back test went all the way from, man, this is a pretty brutal correction. The back test went all the way from like, I'm not even going to say all the zeros. I'm just going to say like, 30 all the way back down to, you're really talking about like 18. So from 30 to 18, and next thing you know, you're forming this big giant like hammer candle over here. Price also bounced back about the Tenkan and Kijun, which is around 26. So this is a pretty bullish setup. Like this really is forming a little bit of a higher low and allowing bullish continuation to occur. I have nothing bad to say about it. Could the next month end up being another candle to end up, forming a candlestick to fill this wick? There's always a possibility for that. But so far, I wouldn't necessarily count on that because price have basically back tested some very important support after big volume breakout, right? And you're basically talking about current price is getting back above on the top of this volume shelf over here. So things are actually looking pretty decent for Shiba in there. Can it go back down? Yes. But when it goes back down, what does that mean? It probably means that it's a pretty decent buying opportunity. The other coins to look into would be, one that I do hold is going to be ADA, or Cardano. It also looks very similar to Dogecoin. Compared to last cycle, all those also look very, very similar. What happens here at the Ichimoku cloud is this. Right? You have an Adam and Eve pattern over here. You have an Adam and Eve pattern over here. You have a breakout, a pretty powerful breakout over here with a back test, right? You have a pretty powerful breakout over here. Now you have a back test here. Right? You don't quite have the bullish cross quite just yet. The Tenkan and the Kijun so far still hasn't really crossed quite just yet. But I think that it probably needs to use Tenkan as a support level first right now. Tenkan is around like 52 cents. Price is not too far below the Tenkan right now. If it could potentially close a month above the Tenkan, it could be very, very constructive. If not, that's okay too. I'm just waiting for the Kijun to kind of go down and the Tenkan to kind of go up to hit the bullish cross, so we can set up something a little bit more impulsive, kind of like this. Sometimes all it takes is just one candle for these two to kind of fuse to go out a lot faster. And I think that the setup so far is looking very, very similar to the setup over here with the Adam and Eve pattern and a back test. So all of these are very, very promising. If you just look at a Bollinger Band, exactly what it's doing is it back tested the rising 20-month moving average, and you have a little bit of a Bollinger Band expansion, a little bit of a contraction over here too, kind of like what it did over the last cycle over here during this period of consolidation, with the 20-month moving average pointing up. Didn't really quite have a back test over here, but over here we did have a pretty successful back test. Bollinger Band kind of expanded a little bit initially, squeezing a little bit initially because of consolidation, doing a very, very similar thing here. So there are reason to believe that this is going to be a pretty decent setup here moving forward. If you just look at the Black Cat indicator, you can also see there's increased inflow that are coming in too, and price just kind of going sideways from whales. So this is a pretty decent setup over here for Cardano. A couple other things. Link has also got a very, very nice setup here too with Chainlink. A lot of people are disillusioned with Chainlink. I don't know why. Maybe they just expect this to go to the moon because it's consolidated sideways for about a year and a half now. Everybody just kind of expected things to kind of go to the moon. It doesn't have to. We basically have a very, very similar setup to all the other altcoins. Things just kind of got way above the upper Bollinger Band on the monthly here for months and months, and they close above the upper Bollinger Band for 5 months in a row. Simply have to have a month to kind of correct things down a little bit here, and it can also kind of back test some of the other horizontal levels around here, right? So this is a pretty healthy setup over here, and I think that if anything, this candle is much needed, form a very, very nice higher low. Could it end up having another month of sideways? Sure. But that would even be building a stronger launching patch, if you will, to kind of push price a lot higher. A very positive development has happened, which is the Tenkan Kijun cross that has already happened since March of 2024. And what ended up happening is price just simply got way outside, way far above the Tenkan down here. So it ended up back testing a little bit further to like $12. But now price basically bounced from 12 all the way back to around $15, right about the Tenkan and Kijun over here, which is around 13 and 14 respectively. And the bullish cross is still intact. You're building up a bunch of energy, you're really trying to push above the cloud over here. Once it pushes above the crowd, do I think the price is going to go even more impulsive because of how long it has consolidated sideways? Absolutely. I think there's a potential chance for it to hit triple digits, which I think some people think I might be crazy. But I really think that there's a possibility, and so far the price action is really not showing me anything that is getting me concerned that won't happen. MATIC, another very, very, brutal kind of correction. You would think that there are a couple of things that you would think that would have worked out. First of all, you would think that this could have been the breakout over here that it needed, and this might have been just a back test of this diagonal bear market trend line over here, but it turned out that no, that's not the case. It's going to break underneath that again, and it's trying to probe some of the supports down here. So what are some of the supports down here? Hard to say. The Bollinger Band, is pointing up, but then this candle actually fell back down below the 21 moving average. This is a little bit bearish, and this is going to be a laggard, I think, moving forward. I think if you are chasing momentum, this is probably not one of those that you need to chase. And it's been a laggard for quite some time. But I feel that because the 20-month moving average is still crawling up, I think it's probably still going to be okay. Ichimoku Cloud, initially you think that it kind of found Tenkan as support, but no, it just kind of broke way below that. And so far, it's been trying to serve as a little bit of a magnet to try to track price back down, up above this Tenkan over here. Tenkan Kijun cross could be happening pretty soon. But so far, this is going to be a little bit of a laggard, unfortunately. And the breakdown over here is pretty severe, although it does have a very, very similar look to a lot of the other lagging miners, if you will, for Bitcoin. It has a very similar look to that. So we'll see what happens. This actually look kind of a little bit like Riot, if you will. This is kind of like how the Riot chart is looking right now. So I still think that this is probably still a very positive kind of development here. It's just going to take a lot longer for it to kind of build up some bullish momentum for it to push a lot higher. So that's unfortunately that's MATIC. One that I like to talk about that a lot of people are talking about is Solana. What is Solana doing? Solana on the monthly chart is basically doing something that's completely expected. Price simply got way above the monthly upper Bollinger Band and just spending the next month kind of pulling back in. You have a big giant extension of the Bollinger Band. Like the Bollinger Band and the lower Bollinger Band is like down here. So you have a big giant expansion of the Bollinger Band, and over time it's going to allow price to go up higher. Is it going to go up to like 750 to 1,000? I think there's a possibility that the cycle can end up going up that far ahead. Is this going to be like a major mover compared to the other coins? Not necessarily. I think a big move has already happened down here. So there's a possibility that as it goes up higher, it might end up pulling a lot of liquidity as the market cap gets a little bit too big. You might end up pulling a lot of the liquidity away from Solana to other things. So, but what you're seeing here is completely expected. Let's see what the Ichimoku cloud here is telling you. Very much an expected finding. Bullish cross happened in March 2024. Price simply got way too far away from the monthly Tenkan, back tested a little bit. Didn't really quite get there. Do I think it's going to end up having to touch it for the month of May or later on this month in April? Not necessarily. I think this is a good enough, correction. Just like this is a good enough correction when things just kind of get a little bit too far away from the monthly Tenkan. You have a wick down getting closer to the monthly Tenkan, and that was good enough for a bullish continuation. So I think this might be, kind of a little bit very similar to that. Another couple other related altcoins to that. You're looking at the other level ones over here. What about Avalanche? Is Avalanche doing okay? Avalanche is doing great. Avalanche, what it did is it simply got a little bit too far extended from the monthly Tenkan, and also you have a little bit of rejection here by the Kijun. And what ends up happening is you have a back test of the Tenkan. Initially went a little bit way too far, way too fast. It went down to the 29 range over here. I did end up buying some around 30. And right now, next thing you know, it bounced back about the Tenkan over here, which is around 37 right here. So this is a very, very good setup. Tenkan ends up being support for the month. Avalanche came out, setting up a pretty good launching pad for some potential reverse avalanche going upwards, if you will. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I mean, resistance over here flips support, and so far it's looking just kind of backtesting support over here. Kitchen's around 37. Right now, price is just a little bit above 37. Could it end up going down a little bit before going up? Certainly a possibility, but so far I like the way it looks. Another layer one that I personally also do own some in is MultiVerse. MultiVerse is formerly known as LRUN. Ticker symbol is EGLD. I also end up buying some over here, although this unfortunately is a little bit of a laggard, if you will. So what's happening right now is, if you look at the monthly chart, look at the Bollinger Band. Let's see if it's going to pull up here. It's not behaving very well. You know why it wasn't behaving very well is because I was pulling up the Coinbase version, and the Coinbase just didn't have enough candles to actually give you the Bollinger Band. If you actually pull up the another version over here, which gives you a little bit more history based on TradingView price history, you can see that this is a very, very constructive price action where initially you have a very negative sloping 20-month moving average, and now it's just kind of becoming flat over here because of consolidation up here. And it simply had a very, very brutal back test on the 20-month moving average. Right now, the 20-month moving average is 43.57, and price is just above that, 43.62. So it had a pretty brutal back test. So far, looks like it passed. Could it get back down, beneath, underneath, and fill the wick potentially before it's bullish continuation? Certainly possible, but so far it's actually looking pretty decent. This might also be one of those little bit of a laggard, if you will. But so far, price action still seem pretty constructive. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud over here, it's falling underneath the Tenkan. It'd be nice to spend the next month or two to get back above the Tenkan to kind of have this bullish continuation. But essentially, price is just kind of back testing this horizontal range over here. Like, this is no big deal. There's a little bit of a price history here, here, and here. It's just basically back testing that area, finding pretty good support to try to push this over, up a little bit further. So I'm not really that concerned about Elrod, formerly known as Elrod, now it's MultiVersX. The other coins that I have personal owned a lot of, not a lot, just I do have a pretty decent bag, is Cartesi. Cartesi is also a little bit of a laggard, very similar to what EGLD is doing. Not as much of a laggard as MATIC, but when things get going, it get going. Like when over here, over a period of just 3 months, went to like 15 cents, all the way up to about like close to like 45 cents. Right, it's triple all the way within 3 months. It simply went way too far, way too fast. Got a little bit rejected at the Kijun down over here. Couldn't find support here at the Tenkan, and it just fell underneath, trying to probe support down over here. But so far, what it really looks like it's just been a double bottom over here. Broke above the double bottom waistline, went above, and just did a very simple back test. So far, it looks like the back test is passing, right? So far, it looks like the back test is doing pretty decent because price just basically just only wicked down underneath. But price is basically slowly kind of going back up over here to the waistline. So this looks like a pretty, potentially pretty successful back test over here. If you look at the Bollinger Band, you can see that the 20-month moving average is nicely curled up. Back tested the 20-month moving average. Past is pointing up. Price simply went way too far, way too fast about the upper Bollinger Band. Even the last month, it closed right at the Bollinger Band over here, but it just wasn't enough for a correction. They had to go all the way back down here to test some of the breakout down here. It looks like it's passed. So because of very successful looking back test over here, again, this the next month going to be like bullish continuation. I don't know. Like it could end up being some more back test down here before bullish continuation. I don't know, right? But so far it's looking pretty decent. It just did form a higher high and a higher low. This is still a bull trend, and the 20-month moving average is still crawling up, and it just got tested as a support. So it looks like a pretty decent setup here. One other altcoin I also own is COTI. COTI is one of those Internet of Things kind of altcoin. It did something very similar. It had a big giant green candle up here. It ended up closing above the upper Bollinger Band for 2 months in a row. Simply went way too far, way too fast. Back tested some of the level down here. Also looks like it's got a little bit of like Adam and Eve kind of bottom over here. It's simply just back testing this Adam and Eve right at the waistline, right around here on this breakout. So far it looks like it's passing the back test. Could end up swinging another month going down, sure, but then you just be developing a rising 3, big giant candle over here, 1, 2, potentially 3 here. If it doesn't go below this candle, the next big candle could be a big giant green candle, kind of push things up a lot higher. So this is a pretty decent setup. Now, Ichimoku Cloud, you can see, unfortunately, it got rejected by the Kijun, fell way underneath the Tenkan. Initially, I thought it was going to find support over here and Tenkan over here. It didn't, fell underneath, back tested some of the levels over here, passed, and I would like to see it challenge the Tenkan after maybe current month is probably still going to be a little bit of a corrected move here, but maybe next month also still going to be a little bit of a corrected move here, maybe not. Either way, it could be like a rising 2 or rising 3 method to kind of push price up a lot higher, because this very, very impulsive bullish candle here is not to be ignored, right? So the volume of this big giant impulsive candle here is also very, very large. So this is not to be ignored in terms of this breakout above this range over here, just simply having a little bit of lower volume back test. So far, the month has already kind of gone through a little bit 2/3 of the month, and the volume is relatively low. This back test having low volume, looks like it passed. I think you're having some bullish continuation either for the month of May or June, which is going to be relatively impressive, I think, when it happens. The other coin to look at would be one of my favorite. I also have a pretty decent small bag for Jasmy. Jasmycoin is one of those that just look like it just didn't really get affected by the last correction over the last week or two. It's just been holding between the Tenkan and Kijun. It's just been going sideways. I don't want to jinx it, but so far it's looking pretty good. Can the month of May end up being the bad month for Jasmy and end up having a back test this Adam Eve breakout down here? That's certainly a possibility, right? If it ends up happening like that, I suspect that it might be more of a buying opportunity than anything else, because so far it looks like it's just basically going to be end up back testing this level over here. If it ends up doing that, so far it has no indication of doing that. It just wants to form a little bit of bull flag over here, consolidation over here, wait for Tenkan and Kijun to cross before it is bullish continuation. So I'm not adding anymore because I do think that over here is going to be a little bit of elevated risk. I did add some to the other ones, but if it ends up falling down, I might consider adding more, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. If you look at the Bollinger Band, it's going to tell you it's already closing if month of April ends up closing right here, you might end up having a third month being closing at the, above the upper Bollinger Band in space. But the wick can kind of touch up the Bollinger Band. Hopefully the expansion of the Bollinger Band continue to happen, allowing price to push up a lot higher. So that's Jasmy. One other coin that is a lot of people's favorite is Fetch AI, ticker symbol FET. You can see this doing very, very similar things. Price just went way outside upper Bollinger Band for way too long, 2 months in a row. Expanded Bollinger Band, allowing price to go even higher, but simply just got way too far, way too fast. Had to back test the upper Bollinger Band a little bit. It couldn't even get back inside the upper Bollinger Band. This is how impulsive this is. 20-month moving average curling up, very, very strong bull trend. How far is the correction going to happen? Hard to say. I do think that it back tested the Tenkan and Kitchen down here. It could end up, giving you another opportunity for the month of May, where it kind of, make another candle to kind of fill the wick over here, and to backtest the Tenkan and Kitchen over here again. There's always a possibility. There's no guarantee. If it happens, I think it might actually be potentially a pretty decent entry level over here, because the Bollinger Band expanding, price probably going to end up riding up a Bollinger Band to continue to go up, and it just backtested some of these very important levels after a very nice bullish cross that happened, back around December or January 2023-24. So far it's looking very, very constructive. So far it's looking like it broke above this cup and handle pattern over here, and already had a back test with a bullish cross, and right now it's just having some bullish continuation over here and just basically cooling down. So those are my thoughts on that. And you're talking about another token that also get asked a lot, which is the CurveDAO token. A lot of people got pretty upset about the price action, but so far still look like a little bit of an Adam and Eve pattern over here. This is going to be a giant laggard. It just got rejected by the Tenkan again, and the rejection happened, unfortunately it happened pretty brutally, but also happened in very low volume. So I don't know what to make of it. This still seems like very much of an accumulation over here, right? Whenever you have buying candle, up, 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 up. Whenever you have selling, down, right? I think a lot of the selling has already happened. You already have some pretty major capitulation that's happened over here. And whatever selling over here is going on, it could be just these like low volume crap consolidations kind of go around. But this is going to still be a major laggard, because there's not really any like bullish momentum that's has built up quite just yet. So I'm not in a hurry to buy this one, to be completely honest with you. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud, if you look at the Bollinger Band, you can see also very, very similar thing here. 20-month moving average is still pointing down. It's just simply got, rejected over here and rejection over here. The rejection over here happened on low volume, but technically it makes sense, right? So I'm not going to put any more funds into this token. I do own a very, very, very tiny bag of this, but this is probably going to be a major laggard, and I'm probably not going to, enter right now to just kind of let its technicals kind of play out a little bit. I do think that eventually this is going to end up catching up with the other ones, but it's not ready yet, unfortunately, and that's the truth. I want to go through a few other, smaller cap coins that I'm personally, I'm very interested in. One is NKN. This is a very, very small cap one. Their market capitalization is less than 100 million. So this is one that I do look at. If you look at the Bollinger Band, it's got a very, very nice monthly setup here, back tested to 20. Initially went way too far, way too fast about the upper Bollinger Band, but basically just kind of went back down, back tested 20 past, 20's pointing up, Bollinger Band expanding. Very decent setup here. If you look at Ichimoku Cloud, you don't quite have the bullish cross strike quite just yet, but it looks like probably it's kind of around the area for you to potentially get a bullish cross, right? Couldn't find Tenkan as a support, but not too far below the Tenkan either. And right now you do have a little bit of a bearish engulfing look to it, but I'm not really bothered by like these bearish engulfing look to it. I'm going to keep holding and see what happens. The reason why I'm not really that bothered by it, I'm going to pull up another, maybe look at the Coinbase version of it rather than the other version. One reason why I'm not really bothered by it, you do have a little bit of high volume candle over here, but so far it still look a little bit like a double bottom with a back test. So it's going to be a little bit higher risk, because this is going to be, unfortunately, a very low capitalization. But I still think this is more of like a back test of this double bottom over here that has a very, very similar look over here from the previous cycle, right? A little bit of a double bottom over here. And a lot of energy is being built up. You don't really quite have to take in kitchen cross over here, just like you don't really have to take in kitchen cross over here. But I think eventually things are probably going to turn out to its favor. And so what if it end up, having a bearish engulfing candle over here working out? If price end up going back down a little bit to try and fill the wick down here, I still think that this is still going to put a solid foundation, back test this, double bottom over here to potentially push price a little bit higher. If you look at the, Heikin-Ashi candle, you can still see that Heikin-Ashi candle basically summarizes two candles together. You can see that this candle over here is still green. The trend is still intact if you're able to kind of average out and kind of smooth out the candles. And you can still see that price actually is challenging the Tenkan right around here still, right? So 1 month does not really make a trend, although it is important to think that this is indeed a bearish engulfing candle. So we'll see. I'm still pretty decently bullish on it on the long term, because I still think that this is building up a very long launching pad to try and break back above. If you don't want to buy the setup because of the bearish engulfing candle, I get it. But it's something to maybe perhaps to keep an eye on. Another one that I have a small back on is INV, InverseFinance. Is challenging the Tenkan, not quite getting above the Tenkan here yet on the monthly, but it'd be nice to flip it from resistance to support at some point. I think it's getting close, and I think it's just basically back testing maybe some of the volume shelves down here. And I think it's just building up a lot of energy. Price just kind of went sideways for close to a year and a half now, and it's forming a little bit of like this, Adam and Eve bottom over here too. So I think that it's building up some, pretty positive juju for it to go up. 20-month moving average is still pointing down, but it's finding support from it so far. Bollinger Band is squeezing, which means that whenever it ends up expanding is when it ends up picking a direction. And with the way that altcoin season may be starting soon, looking at all the other altcoins, I think it's probably going to end up going up. This is one that I'm interested in because it's also got a very low market cap of like $26 million. It doesn't really take a whole lot to reverse anything bearish over here to kind of push the price up a lot higher. The buying volume over here, push that above, is big. The selling volume so far to back test the 20 is small. So this is actually a very, very decent setup over here too. I'm going to go through a couple of other, really lower cap altcoins here. One is the BOBA network. The BOBA is one that I also own. Another reason why I own that is because it's a very small market cap of $73 million. And it looks like it's got a pretty decent setup. Hasn't really been around for that long. And you see the 20-month moving average starting to curl up over here, service support. And price simply got way above the upper Bollinger Band and basically just doing a little bit of back test down, right? So far it looks like it's still a pretty decent setup. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud has just formed the Tenkan, not quite formed the Kijun quite just yet, still underneath of the Tenkan, got rejected by the Tenkan, but so far it still looks a little bit like a, again, all these look very similar, like an Adam and Eve, and it didn't even really back test all the way back down. Like it could potentially spend another month of May to back test down here, and it could be a pretty brutal back test, but so far it's just kind of back testing maybe some of the horizontal wicks over here. It's got a super low market cap, so it doesn't really have to follow the rules as much. And if next thing you know, if altcoin season comes, if Ethereum pumps, I think BOBA is probably also going to end up, getting pumped along with it. So these kind of small level of volatility doesn't really bother me one way or another. But that's BOBA. One other one that is also, smaller cap. All of these are also available on Coinbase, by the way. One of these that's also a little bit smaller cap that also looks pretty decent is SUKU. SUKU had Adam and Eve breakout, didn't really quite have a back test. It just kept on having like these three white soldiers of Monday candles just going up. So far it's looking like it's finding Tenkan as support. We don't really quite have the bullish Tenkan Kijun cross. It's just kind of cross between the two. Could you end up having a rejection here and going back down and back test the Adam and Eve breakout here before bullish continuation, maybe for a month of May or June? Possible. It doesn't have to because the market cap is around $35 million. So actually it doesn't take a whole lot of money to like pump this all the way up, especially if Ethereum ends up having some pretty bullish continuation. I think SUKU is going to end up being pretty bullish here as well moving forward. If you look at the Bollinger Band, it's just been riding the upper Bollinger Band up without even any thoughts of currently having any kind of rejection going back down further. Although it could, again, like with these kind of smaller cap coins, I don't want you to get burned and say, oh yeah, you talked about this, you say how bullish it was. All these can end up going back test down from like 19 cents to like 8 cents. Like all this is possible, but so far Bollinger Band is expanding like crazy, and I would also not be surprised if SOL just continues to go up. depending on what Ethereum ends up doing, right? And then another one I also want to share is AMP. AMP, very similar boat. Above the upper Bollinger Band, back testing it back down, wick down so far, have a pretty decent bounce. That's pretty much all AMP is doing. The Ichimoku Cloud shows you something here where, it initially got back above the Tenkan and then it got back below, but that's okay. I think the trend so far is looking like it wants to flip the Tenkan from resistance here to support here. So right now we did, having below, but we did also all form a little bit of a higher low over here, right? Could the month of May end up being brutal and end up bringing it back down to form to fill the candle for the wick? That's always a possibility. But so far it's a higher low, as far as I'm concerned. And the market cap for AMP is also a little bit smaller. It's only about 330 million market cap. So this is also one that could be a pretty decent setup here. Again, Adam and Eve type pattern, right? With a back test. That's basically what it's doing. So anyway, I just kind of want to go through these altcoins. Initially, a lot of times I would post a lot of these things on X, but you can see there's hundreds of posts right there of what I was just kind of talking about. So doing a video form, doing a timeline, doing a little bit of timestamps here and there could help you to kind of look at your favorite coin to see what it's doing. But these are the ones that I personally have interest in, and basically I have a position in pretty much every single one of these that I just talked about. So these are not coins that I pump. I don't really read my direct messages on X. I don't really try to pump anything or shill anything. I don't get anything from pumping or shilling, except that if I talk about them, especially lower cap, if you decide to throw $1 million into it, next thing you know, my coin goes up, then thank you. But that's not my intention. I'm just kind of sharing with you what I'm seeing because it's fun. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.